Hey, we're back again,
Hello, once again we're back.
and we're down in the 401 Cafe in Titanic Quarter.
Just facing the HMS Caroline.
That's right. It's the what's it referred to as the Titanic Docks and Cafe. And yeah, as you can probably see in the background here, that's where the Caroline is. We don't know where we're pointing to.
Just down there.
Yes.
Just down there.
Um,
I can see there.
Yeah, you can't see it, but
Just us, it's there.
it's there, and we'll put the footage on of it. And what I will actually do is I'll just quickly turn this round and give you a little view of where we are. I should do this professionally. I'm so good at it. Nice coffee, so come along and enjoy yourself. You've got some free time, a little bit of chilling time.
Yeah. Open until 3 o'clock in the afternoons.
Yes, and we'll put details of their website up as well, because we're very appreciative of them allowing us to record here, because we've been trying to find a home to do the stuff. As you know, we've been filming various places.
Yeah.
I always say we're like the littlest hobo, you know, we haven't got anywhere to stay. Just like to say welcome again to another Chat Schmat Who review. And this episode is episode 6, and it's called Praxeus, and it was written by Pete McTeague. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And Chris Chibnall. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. And in this particular episode, it's another one of those environmental ones, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But before we get into it, I just wanted to say I heard that in the previous episode about Tesla, Bradley Walsh didn't recognize at first. He didn't recognize Rani from the Sarah Jane Adventures, because he was actually in an episode or
Yeah,
2 episodes
Day of
really,
the Clown, I think it was.
and he played sort of an it kind of character, Pied Piper, and he was obviously he was in an episode with her, but he didn't recognize her at first, which I thought was quite funny. I didn't recognize her either, to be fair.
Well, when you're made up to look like a humanoid scorpion, you're not going to be easily recognizable.
No, that's true. So in this one, whenever it opened, I kind of got a Superman 4 Blue Planet vibe, because we had the Earth spinning around and the Doctor was narrating it, and already the production value compared to Superman 4 was I think the 80s Doctor Who had better budget for the effects where that was concerned.
Yeah, because 87 was starting to use CGI.
Yeah, oh yeah,
back then
yeah.
too.
So yeah, and of course on today, I don't know if you can see this. I will put a close up of this at the end, but I'm wearing the space shuttle badge today. Of course, the first few seconds of the film, is it there? I got that at the planetarium, and there's an astronaut crashing in this one. Yeah, basically, it's hurtling down. He's in trouble, you know, and first thing I spotted was the actor playing this astronaut. We later found out his name is Adam, but his name is Matthew McNulty, but I recognise him from a series called Misfits, where he played a guy who had the ability to transfer the people's abilities. He was a dealer, because whenever the storm happened, he was a drug dealer, and so then when his ability was to be able to transfer powers, you know, take away an ability, swap it out for something else. But he was in that for a while as a character. He wasn't a super regular, but he did appear in quite a few episodes. But anyway, he's in this, and it's kind of intercut then with him coming down to Earth with another guy. We're not quite sure at first, but he seems to be sort of tackling a teenager in a store. It seems like someone has been shoplifting, the conclusion I jumped to was he was store security or something like that. Anyway, he goes over the top. He's all over the place, and the kid limps off outside the store, and I'm presuming that it's the store manager, the lady, and she says, "Look, this isn't going to work out." But it was a bit of a plot point to let us know that he used to be in the police and he's just getting his head straight. Yes, I made a note of his name. Obviously, we don't know his name at this point, but his name was Jake Willis. I don't know the actor. He seems vaguely familiar, but he's probably been in soaps or something like that. Yes, the actor's name is Warren Brown, for anyone interested. I thought he was very good, actually. His performance was really good in this. Well, we don't know much about the situation at this point. But when I was looking up details about him, it says he was a Thai boxer, former Thai boxer turned actor. And you could definitely see him sort of in a Vinnie Jones type role. But he also, in this one, I noticed he has a very wide range. Not to criticise Vinnie Jones, but he does seem to have more of a range of acting abilities. We find out they're called Two Girls Roaming, but they're sort of vloggers. Really? So yes, so they're in Peru. We've got those wonderful titles back again. That they're so fond of using this series, and they're supposed to be going to this location. They're talking about it, and then they get there, and it's basically a dump. There's rubbish everywhere, and it's supposed to be paradise, and they're not very pleased when they get there. So then we have them set camp there, and I don't know about anybody else. Maybe it's just me, but I find them very irritating. But anyway, she gets up and goes for a bit of a roam. It's one girl roaming, and then she gets hitchcocked by some kind of bird, and pretty much that's the end of her. Although we do catch up with her later. We don't know what's happened to her here. We cut to the bottom of his glass, and he's in the pub drinking, and the news comes on, and it's about the missing astronauts, missing presumed dead Adam Lang, and he's concerned, and he turns on the news and he's watching it, and then the next thing his phone goes off and he's got a message saying, help me, and then it's like, who is this? And then it says it's Adam, and then it says, then he's like, oh, find me, and he sends him a link, like coordinates for a map, and it's Hong Kong.
I always miss a hyper you can get a flight.
Well, you see, when you're travelling by jump cut, it's so much easier, isn't it?
I know. We're just right there instantly.
Yes, just checking for any cheap flights. There's a jump cut in 2 seconds. Oh, that was quick. So yeah, we sort of find out, that the one girl roaming, I forget her name. It was Gabriella was the one that didn't get attacked, and then the other one was Jamila. Was that it? Mm-hmm. Anyway, she, her friend Gabriella, as we find out her name is, she is looking around and she meets Ryan. Ryan tells her not to touch the bird. This is the first time we encounter any of the main cast. Up to this point, it's just been other people. And so he takes the bird from her, from the area, and puts it in his bag. The other thing was then when we're in Hong Kong, of course, Jake says he's in the police. He bumps into Graham and Yaz, and but what I wanted to say was the girl Gabriella starts patting down Ryan. And then she gets a bit familiar. She's like, oh, do you work out and all this kind of thing. I thought Ryan is getting a lot of attention from the girls this series, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
it's quite funny. And then we go to Madagascar, and the doctor's there by herself, and she's bringing in this marine from the sea. Now we're not sure what happened to him, but he's on the ground, and something happens to his hand, and I don't know what that stuff is. Is it meant to be rock or plastic? If it's plastic, I don't get it. It's not clear. But anyway, it covers over the whole body, and he explodes. Then we get another comedy moment from Graham when he's got the device in his hand, and he goes, and it's just behind this wall, and then Yaz turns it around, and it's behind this door. I love his sort of comedy moments. And then so obviously then Jake kicks down the door because he basically doesn't want to hang around. They find it's locked, so he just kicks it in, and there we have Adam.
Hooked up
he's hooked up, isn't he?
He's hooked up these little cables with this device,
and they sort of ponder about what to do. And the next thing, then these people in masks, gas masks, come through, and basically they have to make a decision to unhook him. And there's some kind of device there which Yaz is interested in. She's upping her game this series. She's being more police-like, realizing that they were finding out the device was worth something because she was using it, as a threat.
It's just nice to have Yaz getting something to do.
Exactly. I think in this episode in particular, she did get a lot to do. But I'm sure I'm not the only one. That was thinking when I saw those gas masks. I was like, "Are you my mummy?" But so they get attacked, and again, we've mentioned it before, but they've got stormtrooper shooting skills in this, because they could have killed all of them instantly, but instead the lasers go bouncing around everywhere.
Henchman as I call it.
So yeah, Gabriella, she isn't sure about it. She doesn't believe that it can move. And then we get the point where Yaz says, "Hey, I'm going to try and find this," and the doctor's not. At first, she's not happy about it, but then she says, "Okay," and off they go. And Gabriella joins her. I just think, do you not think, through the whole episode, for a vlogger, she wasn't taking very many photos or videos? That's like the most exclusive journey or adventure that you could go on, and she wasn't taking any pictures or anything. I sort of thought that's a bit weird.
I didn't think about it at the time, but I was watching it after midnight, so yeah.
And she did go on and on about how nobody had heard of her vlog, but yeah, she wasn't taking any pictures, so no wonder no one had heard of it. It obviously wasn't that popular. And then Jake has his bigger on the inside moment, and they have a little bit of a chat, and then of course they get a call from Suki, who's the girl at the lab that the doctor had met on the beach. We forgot to discuss that actually, but there was a lab on the beach. So they go back, and as Graham is helping Adam, and Jake is helping as well, bring him back, that's when we discover that they are married. There's another comedy moment. Yeah, so we get this alert from the lab, from Suki, and she's asking, telling the doctor, bits of information, and then she actually asked Ryan to dissect the bird. I was thinking, I wonder how many people, vegans watching that, would be, upset about the doctor doing that, because there's a lot of, under the circumstances, the bird was already dead,
exactly,
fall out of the sky, but people will still get upset about having that sort of thing in the show. Especially
where we're living in an age where people are getting offended by things from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
There even comes in about Jojo Rabbit these days as well.
Oh yeah.
Because apparently they think, Hitler's too camp, but then it's a 10-year-old's imaginary friend version of Hitler. So
Mein Kampf, yeah.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
Sorry. Yes, so at this point then we find out that Adam is actually infected because the doctor has taken a blood sample from him. And I thought it was quite funny when she did that, because she was kind of saying, I did say it would hurt, didn't I? And he said no. That's a typical doctor kind of statement. Yes, and then at that point, once we find out that he's infected, then it gets too much for Jake, and he heads out. He was outside. And then at this point, then we find out sort of Yaz and Gabriella are contemplating teleporting out. Now, what do you think about that decision for Yaz to kind of take the leap, almost a leadership leap, and say, we're going to do this? She has that much faith in surviving when they go on these adventures that she's prepared to take a risk.
Right, I suppose it's the case of, if you don't take the risk, you'll get killed anyway. So why not take the risk?
And when they got to the other side, she said, we didn't teleport into an active volcano, which, is is very lucky, because you could go in, you could be moving into space. Although you would think if someone was teleporting themselves somewhere, it's likely to be somewhere safe. Then we get to the. What did you think of the scene where Graham is talking to Jake outside, and Jake is sort of saying that he's almost not good enough to be married to an astronaut, and Graham listens to him and has this whole moment with him saying, well, if you're punishing anybody, you're punishing yourself. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it's a bit soapy, but it's a nice character moment, I suppose. What do you think of it?
I thought it was nice. I thought it helped develop those characters more, because I think a lot of the character development was done, with sort of exposition while they were on the move.
Yeah, because exposition, has to be done in a very particular way, so it doesn't sound contrived. The thing is, it's a nice character moment, and there are people who do feel like that, they wouldn't have partners who are in big jobs. I probably would feel if I was going to have someone who was more successful than I am.
Yeah, I think it was dealt with very well, and also guys don't tend to open up as much about their emotions, so to have two blokes talking about it, opening up, if you're going to do it anywhere, whenever the person's about to die, is probably as good a time as any.
Yeah, I think TV today is able to allow that to happen, maybe more so Doctor Who than on the other show.
Yeah, I mean, even in classic Who, there were moments in it that allowed for more drama, for more emotion.
Indeed.
I especially think during John Pertwee's era, for some reason, there were a lot of the subject matter that was dealt with during his time. A lot of what was happening to the characters, even compared to Patrick Troughton and the first Doctor, William Hartnell. Because they were in a position then to know how the show was supposed to be, and also have a bit of, I wouldn't say fun, but experimentation with the subject matter.
Yeah, especially with Malcolm Hogg doing more political style stories.
Yes, definitely. And Barry Letts and his outlook on life. I think with those guys sort of managing the whole thing, I think whoever it is that's doing this, whether it be Chibnall or the other producers who are taking the show down this road, are doing it very well. What do you think?
Well, as I said, they're probably not doing the political stuff as well, because I think they're making too on the nose. Malcolm Hogg, I think, turn sticks, kind of find a way to buy that as well, find a way to subtly do it, like the Green Death, it's a classic, as I said, and I could go back to the Green Death. It's a great way of doing it, and it does not feel like it's hammering the message home.
What about the Sontaran experiment? Because they have teleported to this area that's supposed to have been London, and the Sontarans there, they're very ruthless. They don't care about the subjects of their experiments. They just want to get them done, and they don't care. But obviously, in that story, it's very subtly thrown in that something has happened and there's a problem, and you have the sort of South African cast there as well, and their story develops more, and it can be done. It can be done. Alright, it wasn't so much a massive pollution type story, but
it's just the Earth from the Far Future where
but it's just one of those stories where they don't hammer home. But I think, to be fair, today's TV audiences do require a little bit of spoon feeding. I might have mentioned that before, but
yes, yeah.
there is an element of that. We have to consider as well that if you don't give people clues, then they get confused.
Oh yeah.
But I also think with the likes of Star Wars and this, when you do spoon feed it so obviously to certain people, well, to everyone actually, because anyone I've spoken to about it has said the same thing, you go the other way where it's too simplistic. So we'll see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not going to stop watching Doctor Who because I don't like the current direction. There's been times in the past where I haven't worse ones. So,
and what do you think of the writer? Obviously, Chris Chibnall. What do you think of Pete's Fatigue? Is it?
Yeah, he's quite good. The plan was an interesting one. Though, as I said, I'm outside of the modern series. He does a lot of stuff for the Blu-rays that are coming out at the moment. So you see the booklets that come with those Blu-ray sets. He writes the notes, and he's directed some of the documentaries. He directed and produced. He directed and wrote. He writes those little trailers that they do for those Blu-ray sets. Those little mini films they do for each Blu-ray sets. And
so there was one where it was Colin Baker, and he was put in prison for trial of the Time Lords. And then there was Ace, the whole Ace in the future
the
thing.
Promise.
Yeah,
and they're so good. They put on special features on each.
And there was Peter Davison one. I think he did one for when they were on board the aeroplane. Yeah.
And I think he did the one for season 10 where Katie Manning and the guy played Clifford Jones, Stuart Bevan, I think, were kind of going back, to deal with the.
Speaking of the Green Death, yeah.
Speaking about the Green Death and the season 10 set, so.
And also, just on that point,
and he writes all the notes and the booklets, all the facts.
It's really, really great. And just on that point, actually, you sent me a link. Neil sent me a link for season 12.
Tom Baker
is being re-released. I have pre-ordered that, and then the other one that's coming out is season 14. Did you say?
Yes, season 14.
Season 14. I've pre-ordered that one, and we're going to do a special on all the different Blu-rays because I think it's important. Oh yes. So yeah, we have this sort of thing where Yaz, obviously she's taking charge, but she thinks she's found an alien colony here, and then we have. The dead bird that Ryan has taken apart, and he's found a lot of plastic in it. And then we get this week's environmental message, which is
plastic pollution.
Yes, there's plastic inside everybody, and we're all going to die.
Cheerful thought. Very cheerful thought.
It wasn't laid on as thickly, but what do you think of that? Did you like it or not?
It was all right. As I said, I think. It's getting too environmental. It didn't, but it wasn't as hammered home like it was in Orphan 55, which I thought was way too, heavy-handed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're getting to the theory that I was talking about. So in this, the doctor mentions that she's having a think, and she says, "Come on, brains," and it's like. Why is she talking about brains? And Graham says, "Oh, is that brains plural?" And it's one of those situations where you kind of think, "Hang on a minute, why has the doctor got two brains?" So I looked this up, and apparently it was mentioned in with Peter Capaldi and with whenever Missy was in it that there were 3 brain stems. So I don't really know. It's not clear. If the doctor had, because there's no way they would have 3 brains in the human-sized head.
No.
So it would also make sense, actually, if they had 3 brain stems as to how the master is able to control people, especially the Delgado master.
I am the master, and you will obey me. You understand? Everything will be all right if you just obey me. I must obey. You will obey me. Must be obeyed.
If he could have a hold, if he had more mental abilities.
Yeah.
And
maybe there's a temporal one that connects them with other Time Lords. Like I know that there's sometimes when the Doctor meets another version of himself, they don't instantly recognize the future self.
Yeah.
But most times the Doctor is aware that it's him or her.
This theory about the brains, could that be why the Doctor doesn't recognize Ruth? You know what you were saying about, you were mentioning it there about, maybe he doesn't recognize versions of him or herself. Maybe she didn't recognize Ruth because I believe maybe they can have their memory wiped unknowingly, or in Fringe, in the TV series Fringe, Walter, he removes a section of his brain where he's slightly less intelligent, and it's to prevent him from having the knowledge to do certain experiments, and he did that to himself. So it's one of those situations where they do that in certain things where the individual tries to help themselves by making themselves forget. So potentially, it could be part of the story. I don't know. I'm just clutching at straws here, but I don't know if that's something that could be.
I don't know, because as I said, Doctor. I mean, if this Doctor Who thing is it could either be a really interesting thing or the worst retcon ever done.
Well, I heard people saying that it was part of a comic. You know, some of the things they've mentioned already was part of a comic story that happened. And if that is the case, then it sounds like it is going to be more of this extra regeneration cycle.
Yeah.
Which not very many people that I know or I've heard talking about it are happy with.
You know, because here's the
even young people who are fans of the new series.
Like, here's the thing. I was reading an article, and I think, you know, and what I'm worried about is this regeneration cycle happening before Hartnell. And this article I was reading yesterday was saying that, you know, what the reason why Hartnell should remain the first Doctor, you know, the first incarnation, is if you go back to watch the early Hartnell ones, he is a very different character at the start. He in his first story he basically kidnaps Ian and Barbara.
Yes.
He's about to kill one of the cavemen to hasten their journey back to the towers, but Ian stops him and goes, "What are you doing?" And then in the Daleks, they first started featuring the Daleks in the first episode. He's so adamant to see the Dalek city, but the crew don't. Ian and Barbara don't. That he purposely takes the Mercury out of the TARDIS console, so they have to go to the city. You know, so he's a bit more of a bastard, you know. But in those first couple of stories, he starts to respect Ian and Barbara, and, you know, he becomes more mellow, and as a result, you know, by the time it's time, he's become more like the Doctor we know and love. So, you know, if we have all these incarnations that prior out there, you know, it kind of cheapens that kind of setup that you have for the first Doctor.
And I think it's a fair point to say that the Doctor learned from the first companions. Mm-hmm. You can easily tell by the time the likes of Stephen comes along that even Vicky, he treats Vicky way better than he does Susan. But again, family, sometimes people treat family differently because they're more protective.
Yeah.
So I just think he did learn from that, and it is something that's happened throughout the whole show. And I think if you do turn around, regardless of how it's done, and basically say that the whole show that you know is not what you know, then you add further confusion to the story. In other words, keeping track of, you know, who was who, if you pardon the expression. But keeping track of that was forgivable with the War Doctor, but once you get beyond that, you know, you're basically having to, you know, you can't just jump in and watch and understand everything, because it's too late in the game, I think.
Indeed.
You know, to do this kind of thing. And then, you know,
I mean, the War Doctor retcon worked because we had never seen the regeneration of the 8th Doctor into the 9th, and, you know, so there was room for that.
And we got that.
Yeah.
And actually, what I want to point out something. There's a video on YouTube on the official Doctor Who channel, which you should look at, and it's all the regenerations from the first Doctor through to Jodie, and it covers the original William Hartnell, and it covers from Twice Upon a Time. It has that in there, and it has all the including it's a regeneration fake out with Sylvester McCoy, as we all know.
Yeah. It
has that in there, but it's a really good video, so search that out, because it shows you, if you're interested in that. It even includes the time that David Tennant regenerated into David Tennant.
Yeah, because like further later on, it was actually the regeneration was used.
Yeah. So does that mean the numbers are wrong again? Because we don't know. That's where it gets confusing.
I mean, I know in Brain of Morbius there's a hint of all these faces. You know, he has the mind game thing with Morbius, and you see all these faces.
Now, what series was that in?
Season 13.
Right. Okay.
So that was a year before they established the regeneration limit in the Deadly Assassin.
Okay.
But I think at that point they were trying other things to kind of say there's a finite number of times Doctor can change, but you know, I think it's been retconned that they were Morbius's faces, but you know, there was a hint that there was faces before. He
was trying to confuse things. Morbius was trying to confuse things.
Well, that's how the fan theory goes.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of people will not be happy if they try to retcon the series. There's a lot of people who are fans of the new series, young people who are fans of the original series, and they will not be. They have said, you know, they're not going to be happy because you have to respect what's gone before.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a big insult to Hartnell, who is the original Doctor,
and all the people that worked on the show then as well.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, it's great that the Doctor's a woman now. I'm sure he really does good stuff, but don't retcon that he was always a woman before he became a man. I just think it's too much of the nuisance of what this decade the last couple of years have been about.
Yeah, it's making it unnecessarily antagonistic to fans, because it's one thing to have that sort of story, but to have it for a reason to say, oh well, I've always been a woman, therefore being a man wasn't as good or something like that. And then it annoys me then about, you know, articles in the paper criticising fans for being racist and sexist. I'm saying that has nothing to do with it. Some fans maybe they are, but that has nothing to do with it. It's just don't cheapen the legacy of what came before. That's what it's about. I have no problem with the Doctor being a woman, but what I want is, going forward, the Doctor, it means that you open the casting pool so it can be either man or woman. Yeah. Oh yeah. It
shouldn't be, oh, we must make a statement here to say that he was a woman before he was William Hartnell. No, that ruins William Hartnell's legacy.
Oh yeah. And I think
and it's been established that Hartnell is the one who stole the TARDIS and left Gallifrey.
Yeah, and once you start messing about with that,
if the Roof Doctor is supposed to be an earlier version of the Doctor, why is her TARDIS a police box? If you remember the very first story, when they land in prehistoric Earth, the cavemen, the Doctor and Susan are both concerned that the TARDIS is still a police box. There's that thing where the Doctor goes, it's a police box. Why is it still a police box? So if it's meant to be an early version, it shouldn't even be a police box.
Yeah, exactly. So that may be hope for those who are hoping that it isn't going to be retcon, that it may be some other thing that's going on. So that's why you need to be careful not to jump to conclusions before the show is finished. That's why we will have a proper in-depth conversation when we get to that point.
I mean, if I'm proven wrong, happy day, but if I'm proven right, I think,
I know. It is. Those are the kind of things that annoy people. But so anyway, back to this particular story. They come up with an antivirus. Basically, that's what they're working towards. And when I saw the guy at the lab, I knew he was toast from the beginning. He's like the equivalent of in horror films when the guy says, I'll just be 5 minutes, and then he's taken out.
I'll walk upstairs here. Good.
I'm just going to check it out, and then he won't be back.
Yeah.
And so he, of course, does get attacked by the birds. But sort of before all that happens, this is whenever Yaz contacts the Doctor, and then we realise she tells her that there's 3 locations, and that's when the jig is up. Is that what they say? For Suki, and the Doctor makes it clear. And she says the line, "I'm sucker for a scientist," which I thought was funny.
Yeah, Doctor, because they talk the Doctor's language at scientist.
Yeah. So the cover is blown basically, and
you blew my cover.
You blew my cover.
But before she goes, she tells us the name of the disease, which is the name of the episode.
Praxeus.
And then the gang get attacked by birds.
As you do.
Yep. Again, they manage to escape. Thankfully, the birds are terrible. It's funny how one bird was able to get that girl, but a gazillion birds didn't get any of the guys.
It's what the plot demands.
Yeah. So anyway, they end up back inside, and Adam says, "Oh, try the antidote on me. Well, I haven't got anything to lose." They're not happy about it, but they go ahead and do that. And yeah, so then the Doctor then meets up with Yaz and bursts her bubble by telling her that it's not really an alien colony. I can't speak. Colony. It's not even an alien colony.
It's the Indian Ocean, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Indian Ocean. And again, the girl is impressed. She has a face like thunder because she thought she'd found aliens, but the blogger girl, she didn't take a picture. She's like, "Oh, we're at the bottom of the ocean," but no picture. What is?
You've been where no vlogger's been before.
No, exactly.
to coin a phrase.
Exactly. So, seriously, no wonder nobody has heard of her vlog, because she doesn't bring a camera.
No, I have to admit, I probably feel like that myself sometimes when I forget to post stuff up on Twitter about things I'm doing.
Well, the difference between that, Neil, is that you're not one bloke roaming, or say, they're trying to be like travel vloggers or whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a big important thing that was missing from that. Yeah, so we have some deathbed scenes. Always a good emotional moment from there. And Adam basically says to Jake, "Stop dodging life." That's his final words, if you like. And then they catch up with Suki and find the spaceship underwater, and that's where we get another portion of the educational episode. She explains that they brought the virus here because our oceans are so polluted with plastic. Feel shame, people, feel shame.
Yeah.
All those straws, all those bits of crap that end up in the sea.
Yeah, killing birds.
Yes, and us.
Yeah.
Will attract alien viruses. So that's the message. Avoid alien viruses.
Yeah.
The other thing was, this has come out, obviously this was filmed last year, this has come out at a time when there is a virus rolling around. Now, it's not bird flu, but it is a virus, and it actually added to the episode that is, yeah, it actually added to the episode, I think, which was a bit of a fluke for them. Yes, so we get the line where the doctor says, "Oh yes, so you're using the Earth as a petri dish." I always thought it was petri dish, but she said petri dish. So
then again, I think that's depends on how much you pronounce words. It could be both. It's like data or data.
Yeah.
I think they always say that Patrick Stewart, the pronunciation of data, the start next year, was due to Patrick Stewart pronouncing it as data.
Yes.
But it's either or, so maybe Petri or Petri. But then there's a Matt Smith Doctor Who episode where they refer back to Metabilis 3, the crystal that John Pertwee.
Oh yes.
But he pronounced it as Metabilis.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's Matt Smith last year. He pronounced it as Metabilis instead of Metabilis.
So anyway, after we get that exchange with the guys, of course then she gets infected with it because she gave herself a dose of the antidote as well, and she's alien, so
didn't work for aliens.
Didn't work, and she explodes. Bye bye, you're dust. And then we get this whole sort of scene where they're all working together, trying to get the spaceship started and ready for the autopilot. Of course, it doesn't work.
Always doesn't. You need more drama.
And Jake then decides to take control and get some nice moments there where he's like, "Yep, I'm going to sacrifice myself." Very heroic moments. And I forgot to mention, actually, Adam is cured. Forgot to say that, but he got cured. It worked. Thank God for that.
And Jake is excited. He's flying the ship.
Yeah, he is super excited. He's like, "This is easy," joking and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's always interesting how easily a human can find flying a spaceship that's never had a experience in before. How easy it is to fly a spaceship. I'd be going, "Where's the on switch?" I just find it amazing how everyone just knows. It's like James Bond always knows how. So these are random people. Just like, how the hell do you know how to fly a ship?
Very lucky people.
It's always, huh? Yeah.
But yeah, we think, oh, he's going to die. He's managed to save people, but he's going to die. And then the doctor suddenly brings him back. Now that's happened before. That happened with the 9th Doctor, didn't it?
Saved Jack. He saved Jack.
Yeah, he saved Jack. So it can happen. But she said, "Oh, I'm a romantic," which implied that she could do that anytime.
Yeah, and then the article I read a couple of days ago was, why didn't the doctor do that to save Adric? Why did Adric have to die?
I know. I met Matthew Waterhouse recently, a year or so ago, and he's a really nice guy, very funny. And we were talking about the show and all that kind of thing. But what does he think of that? If he's seen that episode, he thinks his death could have been avoided.
Be interesting to.
Yeah, and funny enough, we've been talking all along about those episodes because because of the number of people in the TARDIS, and then they had to kill him off.
Yeah,
for the reasons.
Because they say that they call it the crowded TARDIS. It's like, and then because sometimes Nissa has stuck in the TARDIS because they hadn't don't forget Kinda, where she at the end of For the Doomsday, she goes, ah, and then next episode she's just written out for the whole story. She's there, I'm better now after having 48 hours in the Delta rave.
But you see, because that's the thing, you know, you have to give them credit for that, where the actual writing for the characters is a lot better. You know, they're given more to do. Graham has definitely been sidelined this year more than last year, which I think had to happen. But when he is used, he's used very well, I think.
Yeah, because I think last year wasn't. I think Yaz was a bit sidelined.
Yeah, and she's been given more to do.
It is always wondering, have they forgotten about Ryan's dyspraxia?
Well, there was one scene when he was in the Tesla episode when he was jumping from the train carriage, where he suddenly remembered about it, but it was over in a flash.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get to the final part, and it's the end, and the two guys are saying that they're going to, because obviously one of the things that Jake mentioned earlier was that he didn't like travelling, and they didn't have a honeymoon, so they go, oh, let's have our honeymoon here. And then Gabriella tags along. What's that all about? What kind of? And then Graham says, 3 idiots roaming, you know, which about sums it up.
Yeah. Maybe she'll actually take some pictures.
Yeah, because like, what was the actual point in that?
I know.
You know, she had the most unique adventure of her life, and she didn't give a crap about recording it. I mean, she could have charged all her things up on the TARDIS, no problem.
Yeah.
But why did she want to? It just, her character seemed surplus to requirement. Yeah. She was someone, I suppose, for Yaz to have, so that maybe Yaz looked better.
Maybe she doesn't know what flocking is.
Maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she thinks it's writing letters. But so overall, what did you think of that then?
Oh, it's a decent episode. As I said, to me this season Doctor Who just feels like it's there. It doesn't feel like it's memorable for me as in the way that some of the Russell T Davies ones and the Moffat ones are. But it's getting there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm enjoying it too, but I am, like everyone, worried about where this storyline's going to go. But
yeah,
I do trust Chibnall.
I don't.
You don't trust him?
No, I've been scared of Doctor Who ever since he took over as script editor.
Well, people have been talking about, you know, it might be the Valyard, or that kind of thing.
No, he's went on and said it's actually not a parallel universe Doctor.
No, but what I was going to say was, it's funny people talking about all these things that you know, that were to do with Trial of a Time Lord, which is where he was most vocal as teenage Chibnall. You know, we had mentioned it before about him being on the BBC Open Air, which was a programme. It was a bit like Points of View meets Breakfast Time.
Now on BBC One, here's Eamon Holmes in Manchester for the early edition of today's Open Air.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Open Air this morning live from Birmingham. That theme music will let you know instantly that today we are checking into a programme which is checking out of the ITV schedules after 24 years.
Ah, yes, you've just made it, haven't you?
The Trial of the Time Lord, which there's footage of him from this show. It was a BBC One programme which was on in the mornings during the 80s and 90s. I think it was made by Pebble Mill, because you had a lot of people who presented Pebble Mill. Eamon Holmes was one of the presenters originally on that. So we just wanted to conclude with that then, because we were talking about Chibnall on Open Air and he complained about Trial of the Time Lord writing, and I just think it's interesting that a lot of it's being brought up as possibly suggesting that he's going to bring these characters back. I don't think he is, but it's amusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amusing given his writing. It's not the greatest, and he's criticised Pittman Jane Baker. Now, Pittman Jane Baker, we're not the best writers in Doctor Who, but but that's, remember, 3 of their stories were written as last-minute replacements for other stories that didn't work. And when they wrote, and even their final one, Stephen McCoy's debut story, they were to write a story that was a very last minute. They didn't know how the Doctor was going to be because Stephen McCoy was cast so last minute. Doesn't justify, that they weren't probably the best writers for Doctor Who. But,
I mean, he did have valid points, but I think the fact that he spoke towards them, directly to them about it, without realizing, the intricacies of running a show, he probably has a better idea now. Funny enough, in that same clip, which is on the DVDs, on that same clip, they ask him and some other fans at the time, will you still be watching Doctor Who in 50 years or whatever it was, or when you're an older man, which I think is kind of ironic because he is now the showrunner, which is obviously why they included that in the selection of stuff. But it is interesting that these things go full circle. I wonder what young Chris Chibnall would make about what current Chris Chibnall is doing to the series. I don't know about you, but I'm not one of those fans who starts demanding this, that, and the other with the programs. But I certainly will complain about things. I'll say if I don't think they're good enough.
I mean, because there's almost in the late 80s Doctor Who it was losing. I think there was a point in 80s Doctor Who where the show was losing its horror. It kind of was running on fumes and not really.
I think, though, ironically, the last series of Sylvester McCoy was actually the best in a long time.
Because Sylvester McCoy's first season was terrible.
Yeah, although I still enjoy it, but I know what you mean. It's the quality is not there compared to what it was later on, and I think even the effects of the final series are really good for the time. Even in Colin Baker's eras, to be fair, and Trial of the Time Lord, they were trying to improve.
Well, the thing is, most of the budget went to the opening shot.
Well, that's true, but I'm even referring to even just like the visuals when they're when they're in the TARDIS and they're on another planet, and they really try with the paint box kind of effects to make things look different. Some of it worked, some of it didn't work. And then we have the disco werewolf, whatever it is, sort of 80s mullet. It's not really a full wolf.
From a Great Show in the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's
right.
But anyway, so I just want to conclude about the episode, in that I enjoyed the episode. It wasn't the best. It certainly can't compare to Captain Jack coming back, which everyone went crazy for that. I watched some reactions online to people when Jack appeared. Some went ballistic. Neil, when you said about it on our previous episode, it was just so, you don't think, I just I thought that was brilliant. I recognise the voice instantly, but I watch a lot of Torchwood, and I've been rewatching Torchwood, so I picked up on that.
Poor guy, you poor guy.
See, you don't like Torchwood, but I love it. I love the characters in Torchwood, and Chris Chibnall's writing. Funnily enough, although people hate him, they really do.
Countryside? Oh,
not every episode's a gem, I will grant you that, but there's still elements of Countryside that I enjoyed. But it was a bit of it improved as the show went along, and some people said that the final series, Miracle Day, was too American, but it had John Delancey in Torchwood.
Wasn't the Nav Visitor as well? No, Kieran Reese.
Yes, maybe, I can't remember.
I never watched it all,
but they were good. He was typical, same sort of character, I guess. But he plays it so well. He plays the sardonic, sarcastic.
John Delancey is amazing.
Just beautifully. So
I should have watched that. So I stopped watching Miracle Day. I stopped watching Torchwood at that point. I should have watched it for John Delancey. John Delancey's good in anything.
Yeah, well, even Bill Pullman is in it, and he plays like a paedophile, and he was going to the electric chair, and basically what happens in that series, if you haven't seen it, is that death stops, so nobody dies. So he got to survive. And it's a really interesting series. I would have liked to have seen it continue, but unfortunately it was a co-production, and it didn't really do very well. But so basically, yeah, that's it. Just thank you guys for watching. This is an experiment for us. We're doing this on a weekly basis, and this is the first time we've been consistent in the content. And we don't know if this is something that works or it doesn't. You seem to like it on YouTube. When I say like it, instead of having one viewer, we've got 3. So that's an improvement already.
Next week, hopefully, we 4.
Yes, we're aiming for 4 by the end of this. And we are going to do more of these. We have had awful technical problems, and we do apologise again for that. That's our fault, not yours. We try to get them before the next episode, but sometimes that hasn't happened. But we're learning, we're getting better. We're going to get some other equipment. Maybe if you send us a blank check, that will help very nicely. Yep, you can email us. The email address is there. Send us money. But seriously, though, we are going to be doing more of these. We're going to come up with other programs to talk about. We're going to do some disaster movie, because we're in Titanic Quarter. We're at the docks where the Titanic was. Why can we not do Titanic 2? We're going to react to the film, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards. So that will be a lot of fun. That's coming up very soon, as our schedules allow for that. And that's got Barry Van Dyke's son in it. So,
the legend
Barry Van Dyke and his son. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and if you get the chance and you're in the area, come down here for a coffee, because they're very generous in letting us film here, and we appreciate it.
And it's nice to actually have a place where we can keep coming back to.
Yes, indeed. And for now, it's the end of this episode, and keep an eye on Twitter, because we'll be posting there about updates and things. But for now, that's it.
Dum